an additional webinar that we're planning in the fall, as well as a virtual training congress that we're putting together. And for certain, you definitely want to stay tuned for our pilot RFA funding. We are going to give up to $75,000 in pilot funding this fall. I would like to now introduce the moderator of this afternoon's event. You'll recognize him. It's Dr. Greg Kowchuk. Dr. Kowchuk is an internationally recognized researcher, and he's also a co-investigator on ForceNET. Dr. Kowchuk will be providing the housekeeping parameters of today's event, and he will also be the moderator of the event and introduce our guest speaker. Dr. Kowchuk?
Thanks, Chad. Hi, everyone. What a great day. Could you think of anything better besides information about potential funding and information about how to use the literature better? I would say not. This is the highlight of everyone's day, clearly. And it's my highlight to introduce to you our guest speaker, who is Mushtaq Bilal. And I knew Dr. Bilal back in the day when he just had a handful of followers on Twitter. He now has collectively over 200,000 followers. And this isn't even what he does for a day job. Mushtaq is a literary scholar who completed his PhD at Binghamton in New York and is now a postdoc fellow at the University of Southern Denmark at the Hans Christian Andersen Center. And I was just there. I myself hold a position there and had the good fortune of actually meeting him in person just a few weeks ago. And we even rode the train together into Copenhagen just as a coincidence. So I'm going to pass this over to him now. But just before I do, a couple of things. I think we all know by now some of the ground rules that work best for these kinds of experiences. Please, let's keep the microphones off. If you do have a question, communicate it in the chat room, and I'm going to keep working on those. And if it seems like it's something that we have to interrupt immediately, we'll do that. If it can wait to question period at the end, we'll do that. And so Dr. Bilal will speak for about 60 minutes, 60 or so minutes, and then a larger question period will happen at the end. And I'll be moderating the questions that come into the chat on his behalf. Okay, so with that, let's get going. And Mushtaq, I invite you to share your screen and lead us through the interesting world of AI and academia.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. And can everybody hear me? Yeah. Whenever anybody introduces me like so generously, I always wish that my wife were here. So one of these days, I'm going to show her this recording with both you and my son. You know, you guys give me grief, but you don't know yet how much people like me. Just kidding. So yeah, it was really lovely meeting with you, Greg, the other day on our way to Copenhagen and, you know, on the campus of SDU. I work, like Greg said, my day job is as a literary scholar, and I work in my free time as somebody who develops workflows for academic writing. It is sort of, you know, closely associated to the kind of work that I did during my PhD, and it is also not. So we'll start with simple question, and feel free to write in the chat your responses. When you think about AI, what's the first thing that comes to your mind as an academic, as a person? What's the first emotion it evokes? What are your first impressions when somebody says, hey, we're going to use AI for our academic work, or in general, life in general? What's the first emotion or impression that you have? Feel free to write in chat. Curious, stress. As you can see here in this very short exercise, in a couple of minutes, this is one of my favorite exercises because you will see how diverse and how big of a range of responses it generates. So somebody says, yeah, ChatGPT, you know, it's become synonymous with AI. Stress, curious, I think efficiency, faster, controversial. Students are cheating, streamlined processes, efficiency and possibility, excitement, fear, skepticism, terminator, opportunity, world changing, intimidating, unnatural. And can we rely on it? So skepticism. So do you see the kind of, how diverse and how rich the responses are? And this is almost always, this is the range of emotions that, people come up with or people share. Now, I'm going to start with something that is that is quite intuitive to me and many others, but it may not be intuitive to many people. And it wasn't intuitive when I first started working with these AI apps. So I'll start with basic ground rules for how to interact with an AI app, or how to think about AI in general as an academic. So I'm going to share my screen here with you, and we'll start our today's talk with developing the right kind of mindset for AI powered tools. Okay, I'll not go into the slideshow, but I can maximize it like this. Is this good enough for you? Can you see my slide here? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So the right kind of mindset, and these are, like, I published quite a few months ago, my 4 commandments of using AI as an academic. And the first thing, and this is one of the most important things about using AI, is that we are going to, and we will learn, and in the days to come, we will have to outsource our labor to AI, but not our thinking. We are paid to do the thinking job, and we have to do the thinking job. But we can certainly outsource our labor, and we will learn a few workflows of how to outsource our labor, efficiently. The second thing is that we have to learn to use AI as a research assistant and not as a research supervisor. And this is very important, because you will come across a lot of people, I have certainly, who think that their idea of AI is very omnipotent. It's like a, God robot. They think that they're going to input a certain command and the AI will give them a completely written, peer-reviewed paper, and they'll just put the name on it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen anytime soon. The third point is that AI, because these large language models like ChatGPT and Claude that just inaugurated yesterday, the Claude 2, these large language models are trained on very large amounts of data, human generated natural language. They are very good at structure. They know how human communication, the structure of human communication. So what do I mean by the structure of human communication? So if these models know how a conversation takes place, how a blog post gets written, how a journal article gets structured or organized. So they have a very good understanding of the structure of these, modes of dissemination. But their content is always going to be predictive, because they are built on a predictive model. And so we will use these to create structure, but not content, because content is always predictive. And good scholarship is never predictive. Good scholarship is always, interesting scholarship makes unpredictable, unprecedented new connections. And the fourth point is, do not over rely on AI, and do not forget to use our common sense. Now, I always say that this is very, very, this seems very intuitive, and this seems like received wisdom. Just use your common sense. But you'll be surprised that it's very tricky, because people will just not use their common sense. People will just not read. You tell them, here are 5 instructions before using ChatGPT, for example, and they will not read. I just don't understand this. That why would you not read? They will just not read and jump in. That's okay too. And maybe that's the reason, people like me have a job. Otherwise, we'll be out of job if people started reading what they're supposed to read. I mean, there's this lawyer in the US I'm assuming most of you are based in the US. So there's this New York lawyer who used ChatGPT to ask for, precedences and cases. ChatGPT made them up, cooked those fake cases. He didn't stop there. He asked ChatGPT to give him those reports for those fake cases. ChatGPT cooked up fake reports for fake cases. Now, this lawyer didn't stop here. He submitted all those fake reports and citations to a federal judge, and then ended up, getting his name plastered all over New York Times and Washington Post, BBC, and I think he'd be lucky if he retains his license. This is the kind of thing that, and if you go log on to ChatGPT, the first thing that, the user interface will show you is that ChatGPT may generate incorrect information. And he did not read that. This is so surprising. Anyways, but we will, so that we don't end up on the front page of New York Times. I mean, we want to end up, but for the right reasons, not for submitting fake documents to a federal court or federal judge. Okay. So let's do a short. So how many people here, please feel free to reply in chat. How many people here already have an account on ChatGPT or have used ChatGPT? Okay, I've not used, okay, it really doesn't take very long to create an account. So how about you go to this, I'll put this in the chat. So this is the URL. If you have not signed up, I used a free option to edit an abstract. That's very nice. Yeah, Harb. So this is the URL, and if you click on this, it will ask you to create an account. You can create an account in like 5, not 5, but 1 minute. Only cursory my kids have. Yeah. So it'll take you 1 minute or 2 minutes. You can sign up with your Google account. This is how ChatGPT's interface usually looks like. And here, let me put this here. And this bar here. Okay. Here you will see that it has 2 models, 3.5 and GPT-4. So for GPT-4, you will be required to, it will ask you to give you $20, subscribe to a paid model of $20 per month. You can do that. I mean, but if you're starting out, GPT 3.5 model is good enough for starters. If you want to do some advanced stuff with code interpreter and plugins, then of course, you may want to go with GPT-4. So we'll do this exercise. It's a very short exercise, and I just want to see, just want to show you. Okay, how many people here know what prompting is? Those of you who have used ChatGPT, how many of you have, played with it, with prompts? Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so some people have. If you haven't used ChatGPT, or if you don't know much about prompts, that's okay too. Prompts is, so ChatGPT, by its very name, it's Chat GPT. It's not academic GPT. It's not research GPT. It's not legal GPT. It's Chat GPT. And by Chat GPT, what it does is it chats with you like a human would. And when human beings chat, we tend to lie. The most common lie is, how are you? You ask anybody in the hospital, lying on a hospital bed, and they'll say, I'm doing good. How are you doing? I'm doing good. No, you're not doing good. You're in a hospital. But people will, this is the social convention, and people will lie because lying works. And ChatGPT will also lie. Yeah. So we have to figure out, we have to be a bit, mindful as to how we are going to use the tool. Yeah, makes sense? Okay. So I'm going to use this prompt. I have this prompt here. It has your name, qualifications, and context. The context is that you're participating in an academic conference or a writing workshop. You can go with in a writing workshop. And the task is to give me a locker room pep talk like a sports coach to hype me up. And the tone is motivational and inspirational. Now, if you look at this, okay, let's put it in Chat GPT, and then I'll talk about, the construction of the prompt. So any volunteer who wants to, give me their name and qualification, you can put it in chat. It's just for illustrative purposes. It's not a test or a quiz. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, this is good. Lecturers with a PhD. So I have entered Giacomo. Giacomo, right? Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Wonderful. So Giacomo Rossettini. Okay. So the name, qualification, context, task, and tone. So if you see there are 5 parameters here, you can add like 15 other parameters, but that's a bit advanced stuff. But if you see here, you are prompting with these 5 parameters, 5 different things. And the model is good enough to process all these things and give you a plausible response. So let's see what it does. And I'm going to paste this prompt in chat, and you can do this in your own, on your own computer. So let's see, with your own name. And here is a whole speech. Now, if you pay attention to this prompt, I've mixed up 2 genres. I've put this, very serious academic sounding thing, writing workshop where a PhD and a lecturer is, participating. But the genre of the talk is locker room pep talk to hype me up. And it's motivational and inspirational. So I'm just trying to show that how we can, choose different, or how we can, craft an interesting prompt. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Has anybody tried with their this prompt with their Chat GPT? Elaine, you want to share your speech?
Yeah, I was getting ready to share a paragraph of it. It says, "So my warriors," I can share it in there, but it's funny. "So my warriors," that's what it says in there.
It is rather funny, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And but if you pay attention to this whole, the block of text that ChatGPT has generated, if you look at this, it has captured the form of a pep talk, isn't it? It's very close to how a sports coach would talk in a locker room. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round. I want to see your eyes locked on mine, your hearts pounding with anticipation, and your spirit soaring with the determination to conquer any challenges that stand before you. There is this hyperbole and there is this motivation and, really amped up. So, yeah. So my warriors, let us leave this locker room united in purpose and ready to seize the opportunities that await us. This is the kind of thing that you may want to, read before submitting a grant proposal or something like that, where the stakes are really high and money is involved. So this is something that we can use ChatGPT to create, for our purposes. Now, of course, we are not going to do this, this rather silly exercise when we are, working on a research project. But the thing that I want to show here using this example is that if we teach ChatGPT say we teach ChatGPT about a structure of our paper, that this is how a medical, this is how a paper that gets published in the New England Journal of Medicine looks like. Yeah. And I want you to create the same kind of structure for my material, for my paper, and it will do that for you. And then you will, put in your content. So that's the kind of thing that we want to do with this model. We want to marshal this model to make our project, our work easy. Okay, now that we've done this, now let's see if we can close this. So the first part of any project that we have, any research project, is, many people say that they start with literature review, but I start with brainstorming research questions. And this is, I'm sure many of you would agree that this is one of the first steps that we take when we start out a research project, isn't it? Anybody who disagrees that, brainstorming research question is not one of the first things that we do? Anybody? Nobody? So when we brainstorm research questions, one way of doing it is we brainstorm research questions with a supervisor, with a colleague. If we're working in a lab, we brainstorm research questions with our lab partners, or we need somebody, a sounding board, to discuss how our research is going to, evolve or progress. Now, brainstorming research questions, why is it important to brainstorm or craft a good research question, is because if you want to publish an article, you want to have a research question that can be answered within the scope of that article. You don't want to have a research question that's so big that you need a 250-page dissertation to cover that. On the other hand, if you are writing a 250-page dissertation, then you want to have a research question that has enough juice in it, because if you have a research question that gets answered in a 20-page journal article, then what are you going to do for the rest of the 230 pages? That's more of a humanities or maybe social sciences question. Writing big 250 page dissertation. I'm not sure if it works the same in your field. But in any event, I hope you see the point that I'm trying to make. So there is this one way of brainstorming research questions is to do it with human beings, with our colleagues. Another way of doing things is to use an AI-powered app like ChatGPT, for example, or there's an app called, let me show you, it's called Elicit, elicit.org. I'll put this in the chat. So if you want to see it for yourself, you can do so. It's elicit.org. So what I'll do is, sometimes Elicit doesn't work very well because elicit.org, yeah. I think I put, can everybody see this in the chat, elicit.org? Yeah, okay, good. I'm going to put this here and, okay, let's take this out here. So elicit.org. We can ask a question here. So for example, I can ask, what are the effects of sleep training on infants? If I ask a question here, it will give me a summary of the top 4 papers that I can read here, and it will give me a list of papers relevant to the question along with their abstract summaries. And here I can go and I can ask it to give me interventions, give me a column for interventions. Let me zoom it out a bit. And outcomes measured and number of participants. So this is a very well tabulated form of data, and I just had to input one prompt. What are the effects of sleep training on infants? I've not done anything, like fancy. And I have a list of papers and abstract summaries and interventions and outcome measures, a lot of data compiled very quickly for me. But I can still, this still doesn't help me brainstorm research questions in a very, efficient or effective manner. To do so, what we can do is we can click on this tasks in the top right corner, and there is this option called brainstorm research questions. Now, if I click here, sometimes it takes a while, elicit, and I have some slides for that. Yeah, it's taking a minute. So in the interest of time, I'll show you how it looks like. So in brainstorm research questions, it will show you this kind of, let me zoom it. Can you see this slide here? Yeah. So it will give you a search bar, and there you can type in your research question. I just typed in, the title of my project. I didn't even ask a question, height of laziness. But you can type in the title of your project or anything that's remotely related to your project and ask it to help you craft a good research question. And then it will give you a list of research questions that could, that will help you brainstorm ideas. So here, for example, it gave me, I just gave ChatGPT, elicit the title of my project, like Hans Christian Andersen in colonial India. And ChatGPT gave me a list of these questions. Let me go and see if it's working. So yeah, here it is working. So brainstorm research questions. It takes a little while because it's a little slow. Now, anybody who wants to volunteer their project or the title or anything, for illustrative purposes, you can write in the chat. Any research project, any title, any research project that you've done, you want to do, you are doing, How does mechanical force affect tissue function? Okay, yeah, this is good. Let's see. It takes a while because it's running over, 172 million papers. And this is one of the things that the folks at Elicit are working on improving. So the new beta Elicit is, I'll show you that too. It's in beta. This elicit.org, this is available for free. You can use it without, you just need to sign up with this, with your Google account. Okay, here are the questions, research questions. So whose question was it? Dawn. So Dawn, you will have to see if these questions are any good. How does mechanical force affect tissue function? So it has given you a series of questions, a list of questions. And you can, if you're not happy with these questions, you can ask it to show more. How will physical activity affect muscle mass? What happens when we apply a mechanical force to living tissue? What are the biophysical consequences of this? Why do we use mechanical tools to poke or prod living tissue? Do we use this? Do we do this, or is it making it up? Or how are forces applied to tissue when it is experiencing mechanical failure? Now, as you can see, this is a very, basic sort of prompt. If you have a complex prompt, it will give you more complex, responses. And you can keep on, asking it to show more and more until, you're happy. Which mechanisms of injury are mechanical? So, it was Don Elliott. So are these responses any good? Any feedback on these? Herb is nodding and shaking his head at the same time. Yeah. Some of them. Yeah, some of them are. So this is a good place to start. Before Elicit, we had nothing to brainstorm with, but now we have a tool to brainstorm with. Yeah. And so, the better you crafted your prompt, the better the result you're going to get. Yeah. And very quickly, I just want to show you this illicit beta. For beta, you'll need to sign up with, I think you'll need to join the wait list or something. But here, illicit beta is a little advanced. It's powered by GPT-4, which is ChatGPT's latest model. So for example, if I want to discover concepts across papers, I can ask a concept. Okay, let's see. Search for concepts. I have put in the same prompt in this. I want a list of how does mechanical force affect tissue function. And let's see what it does. It looks for concepts in papers and then arranges those concepts with their citations. It takes a while though. Illicit beta also lets you do a bunch of other things. You can find scientific papers, which is, not very, earth shattering, but what it does, does do, quite extraordinarily is that it can, you can upload 50 PDFs in it and then ask questions of those PDFs, upload papers, parse papers, and then final answers. So you have 20 papers and you want to ask questions of all the data in the 20 papers. That will be, this is a tool that's very helpful there. Would that help me search information within papers? I have trouble remembering where some idea was cited. Yeah, I mean, Zotero doesn't cite anything. Yeah, but yeah, I think this will help you. So here it is. It's error running workflow. So it found 15 concepts in 250 papers related to your prompt here. And it says cell proliferation, tissue remodeling, cell differentiation. It's still working though, found 15 concepts. Now, if you're starting out on a project, you brainstorm a research question with illicit, go to illicit beta and find concept in, hundreds of papers. And all it will take you is like 5 to 10 minutes. Now, if you were to do this manually, it would, or Google, or maybe go to PubMed. These concepts from beta were more sophisticated. Yes, that is correct. Beta is the newer version. It's powered by GPT-4 and, much more sophisticated. And you can see here, it's also giving you these citations, and these are clickable citations. You click and it will open the, paper for you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've lost that. I hope folks are following this. Anybody who's unable to follow the workflow as yet, it's pretty simple, isn't it? But these are the tools that will help you make your, we are all academics. We already write, we already know how to compose a paper, how to draft a paper, how to revise a paper. The idea is, will you go over how to dump PDF? Yes, of course. Yeah. I'm coming to it in a minute, Herb. So the idea here is that whatever the processes we already have, we just want to make them, we just want to optimize them using an AI app for a certain stage of the process. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Now, one of the ways of doing literature, after we've brainstormed research questions, we have gathered a few papers. The next step is, or one of the next steps is to do literature review, to have enough papers or not relevant papers, and then read them and review the literature, to find gap in the literature. Although in the humanities, we never do any literature review. We don't call it literature review. We just say that we disagree with that, or we agree with X, and that sort of thing. But I understand that in biomedical sciences and social sciences, literature review is an integral part of not only the research process, but also the the form of dissemination, in the form of journal articles. Now, for literature review, when we have, say, a list of papers, if we have this list of papers, or we have a list of papers, say, in Google Scholar, let's say, or even in PubMed, I'm going to use this same prompt and look up papers in Google Scholar. Now, here is the problem, not the problem, but here is the limitation of Google Scholar. The limitation is that we cannot figure out if this paper is related to this one, or if this paper is related to this one, how? What is the sort of connection? Are they related? Now, scholarship happens, these papers or published articles do not exist in isolation. Yeah, we all know that these scholarship happens in connections. We build on other people's work, other scholars' work, and people who come after us, they build on our work. And so we need to be able to figure out those connections. But Google or PubMed, they don't show us any connections, how a field is oriented, or what are the big names in the field. I mean, it will show you all the citations, the number of citations, yes. But after that, nothing. This paper is cited this paper is cited more than 1,000 times, but we don't know if this paper has any, if somebody has contrasted this paper's argument, if somebody has presented contrasting evidence or refuted its claims. Citations are all citations. Yeah. So these are the limitations of a tool like Google Scholar. But we'll do, so for connections, we'll use an app to figure out how connections are made, and to figure out supportive and contrasting evidence, we'll use another app. Yeah. Okay. So if we go to this app called researchrabbitapp.com, I'm going to put this in the chat too, so that people can log in or create their own accounts. So researchrabbitapp.com, you can create an account in 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes, or sign up with your Google account. So this is how your Research Rabbit app would look like when you've done. Now I'm going to create a new collection here. I can create a new collection by clicking on this new collection button, or simply by this, by clicking on this plus collection button. So I'm going to Duke Workshop. I'm going to name it like this. I've created a collection, or maybe what was the name? Mechanical force tissue function. Let me rename it. Rename tissue function. Okay. So this is a collection that I've created. I click on this collection and it will give me this big green button which says add papers. Now I'm going to click on this and use the same prompt for illustrative purposes here. Now I can also search I can also look up papers using DOIs or PMIDs or other keywords. But I'm going with these keywords, and I'm going to look it up. Search. Now, I'm assuming that most of you work with biomedical and life sciences. Is that correct? Yeah, it will look up PubMed. If you're not working with biomedical and life sciences, you will have to, you can go with all subject areas. So let's go with biomedical and life sciences. Oh, it says nothing. Okay, let's go with all subject areas. So it has given us a list of papers, which is not very dissimilar to Google Scholar. So this is mechanobiology and mechanotherapy of adipose. Now, this is not my field, so I don't really know if these papers are relevant. You'll be a better judge of that. But for illustrative purposes, I'll just add a few papers into the collection. So I'm going to click on this, add to collection, bladder filling and voiding, effect, umbrella cell tight, junction organization and function. Okay, I don't know if it's relevant. But if you are doing your project, I would highly recommend that you read the abstracts before adding these papers. Mine was empty when I searched the biomedical. Yes. Yeah, maybe PubMed, it's powered by PubMed, their biomedical and life sciences database. Maybe PubMed is down or their connection is down. One thing that we need to keep in mind is that because these apps are new and everybody is trying to use them, they very frequently, run into problems. I did a thread on Research Rabbit last year, and it went like millions of views. It did millions of views, and the app had to, they had to slow down. They stopped certain things and added infrastructure. And they were like, "Hey, Mushtaq, thank you. You brought in, you spread a lot of word, and you did a great job." And I was like, I don't know if I should feel happy, because I don't want the app to go down. I want the app to function in any event. So I'm going to add these papers, assuming that I've read all these abstracts. So let's say I've added these papers into my collection, and this is a list of papers now. Here I can do two things. I can add comments, and if I want to read their abstracts again, I can click on abstracts and read them here also. Yeah. And I can also write small, notes and comments. I can write a comment here, discuss this with Dawn at, on Thursday. These are small little notes that, you can try to, remind yourself of however, you want to proceed with your project. But so far, this collection and a collection in your desktop folder doesn't look very different. But if we click on this similar work, then you will see the difference. Now, Research Rabbit, what it has done is it has given you a this interactive visualization of how these papers are related. Yeah. Let me do this. I can zoom in a bit. Oh, it's a bit too much. This is good. Yeah. So if you see these connections, and this is very interactive, so you can, play around with it. If you see this connection, Hussain, 1998, now this is a paper that a lot of other papers are, citing. So if I'm doing a literature review, I would pay special attention to this paper that, hey, this seems like a very, relevant paper within this field. Why? I would like to know. And similarly, this graph shows you that there is this field that is connected, and these papers are somehow not connected to, these papers or this scholarship. Nobody is citing these papers, or, or at least this group of scientists is not citing this group of scientists. Yeah. This is the kind of, insights, or this is the kind of things that you cannot figure out using Google Scholar. Now, in this, that's pretty slick. Yeah, thank you. Now, in this, some people actually told me that it's a good idea to use Research Rabbit when you're up for tenure, because then you know how the field is oriented and who's going to be on your committee. And I said, wow, nobody has, I'm sure the founders of this app never thought about that. But in any event, the green circles here you can see are the papers that I already have in the collection here. And the blue papers are the papers that I don't have. So for example, like I said, this Hussain 1998 seems like an interesting paper. So I click on this and it will give me its abstract that I can read here. And if a PDF is available open source, it will give me a PDF also, which is not available in this case. And if I want to, after reading the, assume that I've read the abstract and I found that, okay, so this is interesting, I'm going to add this to my collection. So I add it to issue function and it will get added to my collection. You go here and it will be added to your collection. Yeah. And you can do this. Now you have more similar works. You can do this similar work again, and you can discover a new network of scholarship. You can also do this timeline. Instead of network, you can look it up in terms of timeline, which is also very useful. I'm assuming in biomedical research, the bias is always towards latest research. Am I right? Like the research that gets published during the last 5 to 10 years. Is that correct? I mean, that's what people have told me who have worked in the field. If it's not correct, please feel free to do so. What are the features, characteristics considered to generate the network? Yeah, this is, okay. This question is above my pay grade. And this is beyond my expertise. I don't worry about how the connections are being made, but the connections are being made using, taking into account a number of parameters that includes, the text of these papers, full text, not just abstracts, text and citations and references. If you want to read more about how these connections are made, you can reach out to these people, who run this app. I can put you in touch. Okay. So the next thing is, so let's assume that we have added a bunch of papers and we are happy with the, quality and quantity of the literature that we want to review. So this is a collection that I'm happy with, and I'm going to read these papers. Now here, one way of doing things is that I go and download all these papers, then create a folder on my computer and dump these PDFs on my computer. This is one way of doing things. We're not going to do that. Instead, what we'll do is we will integrate this Research Rabbit by going to settings. We will integrate it with Zotero. So I hope everybody, Herb mentioned Zotero a little while ago. I hope people know what Zotero is. Anybody here who doesn't know what Zotero is, or who doesn't use Zotero? If you use EndNote or if you use Mendeley, please let me know, because there is a little, a bit of difference for EndNote users and Mendeley users. Citation tool, I use EndNote. Okay, so for EndNote and Mendeley, I'll come to it, in just a second. Yeah, EndNote and Mendeley. So for Zotero users, Zotero is, it's my favorite tool because why do you like Zotero over other reference managers? Yeah, that's a great question, Craig. I was about to answer this. I like Zotero because Zotero is free. One, two, Zotero is open source, which means that a lot of apps, free apps like Research Rabbit, can get integrated with with Zotero, and which we cannot do with Mendeley or EndNote. Going out of EndNote is to Zotero. Yeah, a lot of people here at Greg's colleagues here at SDU are also doing this, and they also invited me to teach them Zotero. So go to settings in Research Rabbit, and here you will see connect to Zotero, because my account is already connected. So it's giving me disconnect Zotero account, but you will see connect to Zotero, or you will also see this here, connect to Zotero. I have connected my account, so it shows import Zotero collection. Now, once you've created a collection, all you have to do is to put this collection into Zotero. All you have to do is open Zotero. So this is my Zotero, and this is my library in Zotero. Now, go to Research Rabbit, and do you see this small little button, Sync to Zotero, at the bottom of the screen? Yeah, so I'm going to click on this, and now Research Rabbit asks me to name the collection. I'm going to use the same name to avoid confusion. Tissue function. So, okay, and successfully created and synced collection tissue function in Zotero. It will take a minute. It usually does. So if I go to my Zotero now, you can see here, there's a collection called tissue function. And all the papers that I had in my Research Rabbit collection, I have all of them here. I don't need to put them in a computer, in a folder in my computer. Now I can do another thing here. Okay. Instead of downloading PDFs of these papers, I'm going to select all of them and then right click and ask Zotero to find available PDFs for me. And Zotero will go and find available PDFs that are open source. So as you can see here, it has found this PDF and attaching it to, bringing it to my library. Yeah, thank you. So this, as you can see, a lot of the process of, the stages of brainstorming, figuring out right papers for literature review, putting them in a folder, organizing them. We can all, we can automate all of these. Yeah, this is very helpful. And if you can also do another thing. You can connect this. If your computer, if your Zotero is connected to, if you're signed up to your university's library, Zotero will automatically fetch your PDFs from your university's library. And if Zotero, Herb, you're saying something? You're mute. You're muted.
Yeah, where's the link to connect to the library?
No, it will automatically use your library's connection. You don't have to connect it.
Oh, well, I'll figure it out.
If you have access to your university's library, it will retrieve PDFs from there. Yeah. Okay. So once if Zotero is unable to use that, you can download a paper and add it to, to your library manually. That's also possible. Zotero will figure out its metadata. So let's assume we have a meaningful collection here and we want to read this paper. So we double click on this and Zotero will open this paper for us here. This is Zotero Note Editor. I hope people are aware of this function in Zotero. How many of you know that you can read papers in Zotero? Yeah. So you open it up and that's also possible. Yeah. You open it up and you start reading this. And if you want to highlight this, you can go ahead and highlight this thing here and choose a color going with yellow. And Zotero will create an annotation for you here. Yeah. And you can read the whole thing. Now, let me show you one of the papers that I have done already. So I have read this paper and made a lot of highlights here, and all the highlights are here on the left-hand side. These are all annotations, and I can put all these annotations into a note also. So this is a note that is made of all these annotations. How do you do that? You click on this notes button in the top right corner. Then you click on the plus button, item notes, and here you can add two types of note. Add an item note. So this is a standalone item note. I can say example of an item note. Yeah. And here I can, start writing however, I'm drafting my paper or literature review. And if I want to do this item note from annotations, I click here, and all these annotations are now converted into an item note. And you see, if you see here, all of these, annotations have this in-text citation. So now I can, start writing here. What about Anderson's books in Danish? Something like this. Yeah, you can take your own notes. I'm just using it for illustrative purposes. Yeah, makes sense? Any questions so far? Now, Zotero also integrates with your MS Word or Google Docs. Now, how many people use MS Word or Google Docs here? Does anybody use any software or any word processor other than MS Word or Google Docs? I'm assuming most of us use here Google Docs or MS Word. So if I open my MS Word, yeah, LaTeX. I think LaTeX can also be, I'm not sure. Can LaTeX be, I'll have to look it up, Samir. I can get back to you. So if I open my MS Word here, okay, let's open a new document. And here you can see the Zotero tab. Click on Zotero, and now you can add edit citation. You can, okay, let me show you an example of insertion, a note insertion. So when you insert a note, it will ask you the citation style you want to use. So I mostly use MLA. Okay. So I'm going to go with MLA and click on OK. And now Zotero has given me a list of all the notes that I have in my library. And if I click on this note, Zotero will import my Zotero note inside my MS Word document, all of it. And if you pay attention to it, this is a citation, in-text citation also. It will import the note along with in-text citation. And if you have a number of in-text citations, now this note only has one citation, but if you have a number of in-text citations, you can click on this add edit bibliography, and it will add bibliography also. So here it is. It has entered bibliographic entry, and I don't have to, do anything. It's all automated, with one click. If this node had like 50 or 30 in-text citations of 30 authors, this paper would have, you would have had 30 names here, fully formatted bibliography. I can show you maybe, let me show you. Okay, so this is a draft of my paper that I'm working on. And all of these in-text citations are formatted in Zotero and linked. So, and this is my bibliography. I'm going to delete this bibliography and do this again here. So I create works cited, we bold it so that it's, and maybe go to next page. Works cited, and I go to Zotero and add edit bibliography. Here it is. All of my bibliography with just a single click. Okay, Zotero have privacy protection. Yes, Zotero does not store your data. It's, they've openly said that they are not interested in keeping any data. They don't have the money to use, or mine that data. And you don't have to, I mean, if you trust their word, and a lot of people do, Katie, so they don't use your data. Unlike Mendeley, Mendeley does use your data. Okay, I want to quickly go back and Greg, how much time do I have?
Mushtaq, we've got till a half past, so you're sort of in open territory now to use however you like.
Okay, wonderful. I'll take 5 more minutes and then we can maybe open up. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds
Is that
good.
okay? Okay, good. So very quickly, I want to go back and talk a bit about if you are an EndNote user or if you are a Mendeley user and you still want to use Research Rabbit, and how do you export this library from Research Rabbit to your Mendeley or EndNote? If you're a Mendeley user, you will need to download a file called bibtex. You click on this bibtex and a bibtex file will be downloaded. And this file, you just take this file and dump it into Mendeley. You're not obliged to connect to a Zotero account. Yes, that is also totally possible. This file, this Research Rabbit bibtex file, you dump it in your Mendeley and it will, it will put all these items in your Mendeley library. For EndNote users, you will have to download an RIS file. So this file is exclusively meant for EndNote. You download this and then dump this file into EndNote. And then you will have all your papers like we have here in Zotero. Now, I'm not sure, I don't use Mendeley or EndNote, so I'm not sure if Mendeley or EndNote would give you the neatly organized collection or it will just dump them unorganized. Mendeley doesn't, doesn't create a collection. And that's one more reason that I don't like Mendeley. And its word plugin is also, it looks very fancy, but it's, less functional, more fancy, less functional. Zotero is more functional, and they don't care about fancy. Okay. 2 more tools and then I'll shut up. So there is another tool called Litmaps. Now Litmaps requires paid subscription. This is similar to Research Rabbit, but it does this, seed maps. It takes a paper and then creates a seed map, like this. Of course, it's a seed paper. It's different than, what Research Rabbit does. It's, the function is a little different, but the presentation is quite similar. Yeah. And Litmaps is one. You can also do another thing with, if you want to really amp up your Zotero game, you can download, here it is, a plugin called Insightful. Insightful is also a free app. It will also show you, graphical representations of papers. And you can install this Insightful plugin inside your Zotero. So I have done this. And if I click on this, Insightful will let you do graph search. So you click on that and Insightful will create a graph for you. See? This, okay, this is also interactive. This is a graph created using this paper, Yuan et al. Here it is. So this is Yuan and this is the paper. Oh, this is a graph. Yeah. And you can also do, if you have a whole library, you can click on this collection and do a graph search using the whole, whole of your collection. And it will create a graph for you. Insightful. This is also free. Let Maps requires a paid subscription. Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going to stop here so that we can have a bit of unstructured conversation. Okay, let me stop the share.
Thanks a lot for
Okay.
that, Mushtaq.
Sure.
That was a really great summary of how to start from the beginning of creating an idea, a research question, to taking it all the way through to storing that reference or those citations and then seeing the connections in between. And there's a lot of different choices out there, lots of similar software, and I'm sure a lot of questions too. So I'll just say to everyone, if you can stay with us, we'll be on for a bit longer, and Mushtaq's agreed to stay with us till past if you've got any specific questions. But maybe if we can keep them towards the chat box so that we keep off the mic and be able to edit and optimize the questions, that would really be best. So if you want to throw your question into the chat box, please do.
Okay. Do you know if there are any AI programs that also evaluate the risk of bias or quality of an article? This would be, I mean, this quality is quite generic, isn't it? I mean, what's quality for you may not be quality for reviewer too, you know? So it would really depend on what you mean by, or what's the kind of, work that you want to do. But there is an app called PaperPal. It doesn't, it doesn't evaluate the quality, but it does evaluate if the paper has, if the paper has abstract references, if the paper has mentioned conflict of interest, or, the structure is complete or not. That app is called PaperPal. Let me show you. PaperPal. I'll put it in the chat. PaperPal. You can take a look at it yourself. There are standard ROB scoring measures. Yeah, Cochrane. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And there is an AI app yet for this. But I think it's only a matter of time that Cochrane, that's how you pronounce it, right? I don't know its correct pronunciation, so please feel free to correct me. It's only a matter of time that they launch their own app, and they may do it. They may even be working on it as we speak. So I am not aware of any app as of now. I know there are a few what's called journal finders or journal finders or something like this, journal suggesters, where you put in abstract of your paper and it gives you, the most relevant journals where your paper would be a good fit. Yeah, okay. So I hope I've answered your question. Are there any apps that can find articles to verify a sentence or find articles that support the written sentence? Not the sentence. Sentence is really like very granular level. But I know an app called Cite.ai that gives you supporting citations and contrasting citations of an argument. And this app gives you like the exact paragraph where an article, where a claim has been supported or refuted. So not quite what you're looking for, Alan. Okay, good. That's good. That's really useful then. You can take a look at, let me show you here. By the way, I'm a big fan of Cite, although I'm not a biomedical researcher, and this Cite app is mainly for biomedical research. But I'm a huge fan of this site. I'll show you why. So Cite has something called an assistant. So think of it as ChatGPT, but this is academic GPT. Yeah, this will not make up anything. This will not give you fake references. So let's see. We have this, how does mechanical force affect tissue function? Let's ask this question to Cite Assistant. This will answer your question with reference to published articles, and it will give you links to those articles also. And it also takes a bit of time, as you can see here. By the way, Cite also has a Zotero plugin. So if you want to install that, this is how your Zotero would then look like. I'll show you mentioning, then contrasting, and total smart citations. So let's see here. If I go here, maybe here. Okay, so this is a paper. Now, smart citations of Cite show me that total smart citations are 5,961 and 5,634 mentions of this paper's claims. And there are 30 citations that present contrasting evidence. Now, if I am interested in reading about who are the scholars that refute this argument, this paper's argument, all I have to do is click on this, read these 30 papers, that's it. Don't have to read through hundreds of papers to find it. Let's go back to Cite. Here it is. So look at the length. Oh my goodness, they really amped it up. So mechanical force has a significant impact on tissue function, and it has given you a detailed answer with in-text citations. Look at this, how lengthy the answer is, and all the references are here. So this is nothing made up. So ChatGPT makes up citations and references, but Cite doesn't. And it gives you these, this is the smart citations. So you click on this and it will open the paper up for you along with citations, smart citations. And here supporting mentioning, I want to see the supporting citation. I click here and this is the supporting citation and this is the supporting paragraph. So, Alan, this is a very long-winded way of answering your question. Okay, philosophical question. I teach second-year PhD research communications course where they write a proposal in the research area. Seems like we should encourage use of tools rather than forbid them. Thoughts? Yes, I'm a very pro tools guy. I'm a very pro tools person. I think, here is how I think about it. If I'm teaching a course, my students will be on the job market 3 years from now or 2 years from now, maybe 5 years from now. And so if I don't equip my students with the latest tools, my colleagues are, other people are in the market. So my students, when they go on the job market, are going to be at a disadvantage if I don't equip them with what's happening, in the field as of now, I want my students to be on the cutting edge of, research dissemination, research communication, and I want to know whatever is, something, a tool gets invented today, I want to know about it today, so that I figure out how to incorporate it into my workflow. Lots of apps require a purchase. Is there an app you think is more a must purchase at this point? Yeah, that's a great question, Greg. So all of the apps that I've talked about, most of the apps, like 90% of the apps in this workflow that I talked, Research Rabbit is free, Insightful is free, Zotero is free. You have to buy extra storage if you are doing a bigger project, which is totally worth it. I mean, I paid $60 and I have 6 GBs for a whole year. 6 GBs is a very, it's a huge place. I can sleep in it, and even then I'll have some, space left. So, yeah, sure. So, Site is the only app that requires paid subscription in today's workshop, that I've talked about. And Litmaps also requires paid subscription. Site's subscription is worth it. And if you recommend it to your institution, you will also get a discount. And this app, I think the founders, they won a grant by, I think they had a national grant or something. Here it is. Yes, they had this NIH fast track grant. Yeah. 50 article limitation come in, I think in Research Rabbit. Does that apply if I have already uploaded papers in Zotero? Is that per library? So the 50 article is in illicit, and illicits, you will, illicit will not store your 50 articles. I think after you've uploaded, it will, you'll have to re-upload every time, So this is in beta, so I'm not sure if it's going to stay this way or, if it's going to change. Zotero doesn't have 50 articles limit. I don't think so. I mean, I think I have 500 articles in my Zotero library. And Research Rabbit also doesn't have 50 article limitation. It's illicit and illicit's beta. And if you want to ask questions of, those articles, you can also use this. Okay, so now we are in the paid territory. You can also use this app called Humata, and this will. In this, you can upload multiple articles and then ask questions of those about those articles. So, for example, I'll give you this example. I have this site, this collection called World Literature, and I have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 articles. If I go here and click on Ask All, now I can ask questions about all of these articles. So for example, here I've asked, what is the idea of world literature according to these papers? And it will give me this answer like this. What is the idea of Pakistani literature according to these papers? Something like this. So it will look up all the papers, the text of all 5, 10, 12, 50 papers, however many you have. And then it will answer your question and it will give you the page numbers that are relevant and the citations also. And Humata also requires a paid subscription. It gives you 60 pages for free, but after that, it requires a subscription. So Herb, if you want to do something like this, I think its paid subscription is, how much is account settings plan? So it's $14.99 a month. So for a whole month, they will give you 250 pages. You can put 10 PDFs of 25 page each and ask those questions, and it will cost you $14.99 a month. not very, economical, but at least it has this, facility option. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there are no, okay, is there a discount for friends of Mushtaq? I think site can give you a discount. Himata can. I mean, I can have, this could be a good way of, doing business. I can do, I can ask them for what is called an affiliate link. So they will give me an affiliate link and, I'll share it with you. People have asked me to do affiliate and I'm like, yeah, this is not my cup of tea, it doesn't make me money. but I can do that. Whose question was that? Jen, if you write an email to me, my email is mushtaqbilalphd@gmail.com. If you write me an email, I can ask the founder or these people who are running this app and, get you a discount or something. Of course.
I'm going to take this opportunity to just say thank you before sending it back to Chad to wind things up on behalf of ForceNet. This was a real pleasure. Sometimes it's just a matter of being introduced to something new through a friendly face and a good colleague. And I think many of us have experienced that here today. Sometimes we know we should be doing this, or we wish we had some time, and it's just something like this between good colleagues that take us over the edge and get us into the kinds of things we should be doing with these new technologies. So thanks for this. Also good to see you again, and thanks for doing this. I know it's late for you. It's almost 11:30 p.m. in Denmark.
Yeah.
So
okay.
You've been a great sport to come on this late for a majority of us here in North America. And Chad has posted in the chat that this will be recorded. It has been recorded, and we'll be making it available shortly on the ForceNet website, which you should all attend and become members of. So I'll leave it at that. Chad, do you have any closing remarks for us today?
I'm going to defer and ask Mushtaq if you have any final words for us. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And if you don't know me, so Greg knows me, and Greg is absolutely right, because back when I arrived in Odense in Denmark, I was on Twitter and I had like less than 50,000 followers. And I think Greg has been following since I was like around 30,000 followers. And one of the joys of being on Twitter or being on LinkedIn is, and I said this to Greg, when we met here on the campus, is that to be able to have, to be able to work with such, wonderful colleagues, and, the camaraderie and the energy, that it brings, and, I talk to people from around the world, and I cannot have imagined this when I finished my PhD last year. And this is a living testament to the power of social media. And this is, it's not that I want you to go and, start posting, memes on Twitter or LinkedIn, but I would highly encourage you to go on, to be on Twitter and LinkedIn and write about, whatever you are learning or whatever your experiences are. People would learn, all of you are accomplished scholars in your field, and you have a lot to teach. And classroom is or research lab is just one of the places where we teach. And I tell my colleagues like Greg, I tell them that, hey, Twitter is my classroom, and I don't say anything I don't say anything on Twitter that I wouldn't say in a classroom. And that's one of the reasons that, people, academics, they find my work useful, because I don't shitpost, I don't rant, I don't say bad things or negative comments. Sometimes I try to counter, but I mean I'm very aware of the fact that people come to my timeline looking for a solution to their problems. And if I'm shit posting, then that doesn't serve my audience. That doesn't serve colleagues like you all. So, and if you want to follow me, here is my. I'll just put in the Twitter handle. Okay, here it is. So it's my name, Mushtaq Bilal, PhD, and it's the same on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And it's the same on the new app called Threads, but I haven't started posting there yet. Yeah, I think 2 apps are more than enough.
Well, great.
Once again, yeah,
oh,
thank you so much for this. And Greg, thank you for organizing it. And
thank you, Jeff.
Another wonderful, successful seminar through ForceNET. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Mushtaq. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Bye-bye.